folks. This is another wonderful week of the tread with our Scaled Up Expo series again. This is week 3 in a row. So if in round 1 and in round 2, if you have not won VIP tickets, there will be another chance to win a set of VIP tickets tonight. Nick Kennedy, I already saw you on here. You already won. Don't go winning another set here. Give other people a chance. But seriously, I mean, these VIP tickets, I mean, think about that. That's a huge value there. You're going to be able to see one of the biggest selections across Wisconsin at a Wisconsin Reptile Expo. And here today, I am happy to actually bring to you the people behind all of the work that actually happens to put on the Scaled Up Expos. So both Dylan and Brittany, I mean, from my side, obviously, thank you for all the hard work that you do. And, feel free to introduce yourself here to everyone here on the tread.
Well, yeah, my name's Dylan. This is Brittany. I know I saw you asking last week, Dab Exotics, Dylan and Brittany. So that's where that comes from.
I was right.
But yeah. But yeah, basically we run Scaled Up Expos and Dab Exotics. Been breeding since 2018 and doing the expos since 2019. So
yeah. And I mean, I'm just kind of curious. I think obviously just kick it off. I think a lot of people are kind of curious. I mean, when did the whole thing kind of start? I mean, I guess take me through the start process of, I think, one, what got you from I like reptiles to I'm Dab, and then what got you to I'm Dab, I'm breeding, I'm working with reptiles, I'm keeping reptiles at a large scale, to now realizing this gap that's in Wisconsin, which was that realistically, I mean, there weren't really a lot of shows that were really covering a lot of the different regions in Wisconsin that are definitely, I would say, before the shows were probably, I would say, underserved, both from a educational perspective as well as just an opportunity to see and own perspective from a reptile perspective.
Yeah, well, when it really started with fish, and not at a big scale at all. It's just we moved in together and we had a fish tank. And when you're going to the pet store for fish supplies, basically what really started was we saw a guy holding a bearded dragon, and it was just the way the beardy was, so kind of inquisitive and looking at the guy, just piqued my interest. So we went home and did a bunch of research, and ended up getting a bearded dragon, and then a leopard gecko, and then 2. And I think that's kind of how most of us start. Yeah. And then now you got a male and a female. So let's see what we produce, which I don't recommend to anybody. If you're going to get into breeding, let's get some known genetics, going. But so we started it with just a couple pairs, and then when you're going to reptile shows, it's kind of you start breeding. You're like, I want to vend one day, and then we started vending. Needed a name. We're not the most creative, so Dab Exotics, Dylan and Brittany.
Yeah.
So then we were vending for a while. And then basically what it was is Sewerfest down in Racine was our closest expo. And we're about 30 minutes north of Green Bay. So about 2.5 hours away. And it's like, man, Green Bay just really needs an expo. So we weren't experts by any means. Most of what we learned at that point was, Google, kind of how to run stuff like that. Then we had our first show in 2019 in Green Bay. And the turnout was just mind-boggling, really, and it's like, there's really a need for it in the area.
No, I think that's awesome. I mean, I think when you look at it, I mean, now 4 years basically, 2019, obviously with everything that happened, COVID and whatnot, but the fact that there's been that continued growth here now over the past few years and stuff, and obviously now going on for anyone that hasn't already seen all the hype and all the hoopla. I mean, we have a new lacrosse location that I think is really exciting, that needs some spotlight here.
Yeah, lacrosse, that was basically just a case of the same thing. If you just pull up a map and you can kind of drop a pin where all the reptile shows are in the Midwest. Obviously you got the Twin Cities. And then you got down by Janesville, and there's shows in Iowa, but there's a big gap there that just isn't, didn't really have much. For us, lacrosse was pretty much a no-brainer. It was just the fact of getting our ducks in the row to where we felt comfortable enough to expand into, the western side of the state.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's, I think it's been, I would say unique, obviously, especially, I mean, I've been, now going on, a year now in my second year with the Scaled Up shows is, I mean, the other thing I want to highlight is like it's not just like your Wisconsin area vendors. I mean, obviously, you have some of your vendors from Illinois, like myself, but I mean, you've really started branching out more where we're seeing Minnesota vendors. We've had vendors from Kansas City before and stuff. And
Yeah.
I find that's really cool because usually sometimes these regional shows, you get maybe it's like the same 5 or 10 people that people already knew, maybe those breeders that were in the area or something. And I think the scope of the area as far as how you've, pulled in vendors, has been really unique. Is there anything specific that you did to try to build that scope, or has it really just been kind of just the community outreach?
Well, I'd say at first, when we first started, we were obviously vending other shows, so we knew people from that aspect. It's not like we were, totally out of the community and just started a show and had no base to go off of. Right. But realistically, after I'd say after COVID, when we started picking up and having more shows, really the support just kind of snowballed. You know what I'm saying? Like word of mouth travels far, and if people enjoy themselves, they're gonna tell people, and I really attribute it to that. Just our vendors spreading the word and getting their friends to come up and vend and so on and so forth like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I know originally, I think it was, it was Northwest Wisconsin Expos or something was like the original name. And then we switched up, we scaled up, no pun intended.
We did. That's another one of those not so creative moments. Northern Wisconsin Reptile Expo is what it was. So yeah. Scaled Up Expos is much nicer.
Was there a reason as far as like with the switch and with the name or something like that? Was there like a funny story? Like, I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of funny stories that like start and end at the end of the expos. Was like something kicking the tires and it was like, hey, we're scaling up.
Yeah, no. So realistically, even just in Green Bay, like ever since our first show when we were Northern Wisconsin Reptile Expo, we'd get a handful of comments saying that's not Northern Wisconsin. And then when we were just in Green Bay, I always would comment back or kind of joke around with people like Michigan's only 45 minutes north, so we are Northern Wisconsin. Right. But then we did the location in Fond du Lac, and then I mean the comments tenfold. I mean, it was insane. Like there was more comments about it not being Northern Wisconsin than there was about reptiles. So it's like we gotta change something. And I mean we went back and forth for
a long time.
6 months maybe. And finally it just clicked. And after our November show in was it 2020? Rothschild is
2021.
Was it 2021?
Yeah.
We ended up staying in a hotel that night, and over the night we switched everything over to Scaled Up Expos. So we had the show the day before as Northern Wisconsin Reptile Expo, and then when everybody woke up the next day, it was Scaled Up Expos, and nobody that vended knew. So it was pretty funny from that aspect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the issue with Northern Wisconsin Reptiles is like you get Chicago people and they just put like a huge circle around the Midwest and like, all right, we own Indianapolis, we own Detroit, we own Milwaukee, and everything in Minnesota and Iowa, and that's Chicago. So as the joke goes, when people say, oh, I'm from Chicago. So, I think, obviously going into Green Bay, I know Green Bay is obviously kind of where it all started. I mean, we were just talking, off camera before the show started. I mean, you guys are sold out. I think this is probably the biggest vendor selection that I've seen, at Green Bay, across all different aspects of reptiles, reptile husbandry, arachnids, amphibians, you name it on down the list. I'm probably forgetting categories. It's that diverse.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge list of vendors this time around, and we're super excited for all the new ones to come try it.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is the amount of new vendors that are making the trip up. Because for the longest time, and I definitely understand it, to make a 3 or 4 hour trip north, you're going, to the Northwoods, Green Bay, there's a lot of stereotypes. There's really nothing up here, just cornfields and woods and stuff like that. So I can definitely understand a lot of people being a little leery to make the trip. But as more people are coming up from down south like yourself and spreading the word back, back down south, yeah, it's been neat to see the new guys come up.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I know like from my perspective, I mean, that was kind of my thing. I know originally was like when I started with shows and stuff, I was like, I don't know if I want to be doing anything where it's like, I don't know, it's 3 hours and it's one day. And like, I mean, I'll be straight up and honest with people. I mean, and I told Dylan and Brittany this last year. I had Green Bays that were, pushing, what I was almost doing at NARBC in 2 days. So, it's absolutely crazy. It's absolutely wild. I mean, I even look at the last November one. I remember telling you I thought I did bad. I was like, yeah, I don't know. It was okay. I don't think I had a great show, but I think it was my selection. I didn't realize like till I started going back through my bills and stuff. And I was like, how did I end up beating the Green Bay that was in, July? So I think, that's just, I mean, I think a testament obviously to, to you guys, I think, as well as, I would say I want to say vendor community, just because, I really think that, Scaled Up, and for anyone that's on here that might be their first time, vending a Scaled Up show or has a first time one coming up, it really is. I mean, that's one thing I'll say is it's very unique how together all the vendors are versus, I mean, you go to some of these large national shows and you have kind of cliques and factions, but not everyone knows. The longer you start kind of going with the Scaled Up, it's like everyone knows, we might forget each other's names, but we know that this person is that person, or we know your business name. Like, I don't know how many people actually know what my name is, but that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, so like we always try to accommodate stuff. So like anytime you get any group of people together, not everybody's going to be best of friends, right? So like if there's ever any issues or ever any misunderstandings, like we always try to smooth it out from our side too, rather than ignore it. Even if it's like we don't try to overstep our boundaries, but if there's something that we can help out on a miscommunication or misunderstanding, we'll for sure go the extra mile and do that. But generally speaking, like you said, I mean, most of our vendors, they're friends, quite frankly. It always cracks me up. It's always like you got all the leopard gecko people that are friends, right? Really best friends. And all the ball python people are really great with each other. And all the arachnid people are really great with each other, right? So it's like there's not that level of competition. Like we're all there to make money and sell stuff, right? But there's I'm missing the word for it. But we're not at each other's throats. Like we're all happy to see each other succeed at the shows, which I mean to me is just amazing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I definitely say, I mean, I've done a lot of other expos and stuff like that. And I mean, I know some of the other ones, I mean, I almost felt like you could cut the tension with a knife type of a thing. I've not been at expos, but I've heard stories of ones with like fist fights in the parking lots and people throwing snake racks off each other's trucks and stuff. And, about 15 expletives later type of a thing.
It's like the Wild West.
Right. Where I feel like you go to like a Scaled Up show and like it's like the stereotypical where everyone like talks about like how like Midwesterners, like Wisconsin, Minnesota, like everyone's so nice and stuff like that, where like our version of like something bad is like, oh, let me hold the door open for you. And it's like, okay, like I don't need the door open, but I'll take the free door opening. So I mean, I think that's awesome. I mean, I think the other thing that you guys do really well is, I mean, you guys have successfully, I would say, implemented a VIP hour. I mean, which, some shows they dabble with and it's kind of like, hit or miss. I feel like consistently, usually, I've said this before. I forget who I was talking with earlier today, but one of the vendors I know that's trying, Green Bay for the first time. I was like, yeah, I said, honestly, I've had VIP hours that first hour I said at a Scaled Up show is like I just did a whole like 8-hour show. So, I think that's been really impressive as far as the amount of people you get through the door, just even within that first hour and getting ready for that, kind of that VIP experience.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's just letting people know that it's an option and letting people know why it'd be an option. Like anytime I see a comment come through about what's the difference between VIP or general admission, I got it to the point now where I just can copy and paste. I got the response pretty good, but letting people know that, it's not just for people who are looking to buy something, but if you are looking to buy something and it's not, a crested gecko or a leopard gecko or a ball python, or you're looking for a specific morph, come in during VIP to make sure you get that. Or else for like families and stuff, for people who are looking to learn, it's a great option to come in before the crowd comes in and you get a little bit more one-on-one time with a vendor and you can ask, more questions without feeling the rush and the need to kind of keep moving down the aisle. So letting people know that both those reasons are good options. I think that's really helped out with the VIP hour a lot.
Yeah. No, I think that's actually a good point. And just, like Nick here just put on the screen too as well. I mean, I don't think a lot of people, think about it that way. I think a lot of times people are always like, oh, VIP hour, if I know I need to get this, or I need to buy this, or I'm looking for X. But I think that's a good point, especially almost for the people that don't know, or that have families, or that have kids, or that are evaluating a new pet. Having that hour with kind of that more, one-on-one time where there's not the crowd, and maybe you feel rushed, or you feel like you don't have the time to be able to talk to that vendor. I think that's a huge win. I mean, especially like, I think I've notated to you, like, I know like the Fond du Lac location, we get a lot of those families that are those, younger families, just got their first house, just had their first kid, now they're looking for, their first pet or their second pet type of a thing. So, I think that's kind of a really kind of unique spin on it that you don't always see at the local shows, or if they do it, they don't do that piece of the marketing. So I think that's, from my side, hats off. I won't take my hat off because I'll get my headphones off, but I just think hats off, from your guys' side. I think the other thing too is, I mean, with the dab side of the house, with all the geckos and stuff, I mean, obviously you guys do a lot on there. If people don't know, Dylan travels around to other shows besides just Scaled Up. If you want to find, geckos, I believe you do some hognose as well, I think, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, across kind of those different projects, is there one, either whether it's this season or just kind of overall, that you're really, excited about, that's kind of like your bread and butter that you're really hoping to, hit full throttle with?
Yeah. So it's something that's been around for a while, but not a whole lot of people really know about it. It's called Albie Snow. And as many people know, Albie Shoal, Albie's Too Cool, Reptiles. Back in the day, like late 90s, early 2000s, he started working on a snow line. And it was pretty popular until Max Snow came along. And then people really stopped breeding it. So long story short, there's not a lot of people that work with it anymore. And there's really only a handful of people that have stuff that can be traced back straight to Albie's stuff. So this year, I see Leo down there, Albie the World, 100%. But this year we finally got enough breeding stock from our outcrosses that we're bringing it back into the pure line to keep it a pure line going. But then also putting it into, I can't say everything because we don't have everything, but putting it into everything we have, put it that way. So Albie Snow is definitely the number one project going on over here for sure.
Yeah. I think we also have to bring up, I think Gary tells this story great, but we got to bring up that story as far as how you and Gary met. Obviously that friendship, I think, is just one of the ones I think cool, that to me is cool, because I think it's also a really great kind of representation of just kind of Wisconsin's community of reptiles, how open people are. Like you can't not tell that story as far as how that all started with you guys' friendship.
Yeah, so there was a fish show that opened up to all animals. So we were vending it. And that was in Kaukauna, a little town, maybe 25 minutes south of Green Bay. And we're sitting there vending, and it's early afternoon, haven't really sold much, but having a good time. And this big dude with wife and kids comes through, and he starts asking questions, genetic questions. And as you can attest, like, we all get excited when people start talking genetics, right?
Yeah.
So then he's asking me about the eclipse, and was it a visual to visual, and so on and so forth. And then he looks to Andrew, his son, and he goes, all right, which ones do you want? Basically is what he said. And they started stacking cups. I think we had like 15 geckos on the table, and he bought like 10 or 11 of them. So that was the first time we met Gary. And we really, it's not like we really stayed truly in touch after that. It was more or less just a customer to transaction. Right. And then starting the show and stuff like that, like we started talking a lot more. And now Gary's like family to us for sure. Gary, Laura, and the kids. We see them guys all the time. So.
Yeah, no, I had to bring that up. Because as Gary mentioned, the other week, like he references all the time, like when me and him are chatting all the time, he's like, man, he's like Dylan and Britley, he's like, those people are like families. He's like, it's like another set of kids or something like that. So, like I said, I had to bring that up because I think it's just, again, it's another just great example kind of, I think, of kind of the community that you've brought together, a lot of different, different folks across a lot of different aspects, and, just kind of, I think the type of friendships, from a vendor perspective, I think that, folks that you can, kind of expect to get, don't just come, just also for the customer base, but, kind of look at it from two perspectives. Your customer could become your next, best friend in a sense, or, that vendor sitting behind you to your left, to your right, could be, your wingman at the bar next week for all type of thing. So,
I'll never forget that, because that was really the first time I made a sale like that. Mm-hmm. And just the fact that he just started stacking cups, and I'm sure he was laughing because we all know Gary's been around forever. Dude's like 80 years old. And I'm sure our eyes were about this big. So I can imagine he was laughing all the way home.
And aunt and mom. So, I think the other thing too, obviously Green Bay is where it started. And then I think from there, second one that grew out from there was Fond du Lac. And then obviously.
No, it wasn't.
Rothschild
was number 2. Yeah.
It was backwards.
Yeah.
I got you. So, I guess, the Rothschild one is where I was trying to get to, though. That one, when you told me that story last year, and like every time, I feel like every show we talk about it, about, their pet store and stuff. I find it so unique. And one, we have to obviously talk about, when you're scouting that area, when you went into the pets, found the pet store, what it was, and what you actually found. You have to bring that up here.
Yeah. So Rothschild, for people that don't know, it's a town of 5,000 people. And you have Wausau to the north, which is about 30,000 people. And then you got Stevens Point about a half hour south, which is about 30,000 people as well. So the real reason why we started looking out that way is we had 2 shows before COVID in Green Bay. And our second show ever was the weekend before COVID locked everything down. Like literally, show was on Sunday, everything locked down on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Right.
So then you go through, and the venue that we were at, it was actually in the back of a bar. But it was a venue, but it was it wasn't the most high class venue, right? Yeah. So with COVID going on, we had the opportunity to do a show in August of 2020, and all the tables were 6, 8, 10 feet apart. Everybody was maxed up, thick of COVID basically. Yeah. And we got a couple hundred people through the door, but everybody was happy. Everybody that was there was happy because it was a Reptile show back, right? Well, after that, we made the decision that we had to, get a bigger venue. We saw the growth, the growth potential, and we wanted something a little nicer. But none of the venues in Green Bay would do anything because of restrictions and COVID and stuff like that.
Right.
So, we did the one in August, and we really weren't. Green Bay wouldn't let us do one until the following August, basically, of 22. So we started looking around, and out in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, there was absolutely zero restrictions, as one could imagine. And they had a really nice expo center in basically the middle of nowhere, right? Yeah. So long story short, we started looking out there, visited the venue, and then found out just through talking with locals and stuff that their local pet store is Ace Hardware. And a lot of people laugh at that, but to be totally honest, I don't know what you thought, but
it was a nice Ace Hardware pet store.
What it
is.
Like, it's not just like a half an aisle with a couple things. Like, they have a whole room with animals in it, and then they probably have 3 or 4 long aisles of supplies.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's still a pet or Ace Hardware. You know what I'm saying? So there was really a need out that way as well. And I don't know if you've noticed that out there, but that really is a lot of families and a lot of people that are coming in to learn. But as time has gone on there, like, somebody comes in February and it's their first time and they learn, and then they're going to come back in June and they're going to learn some more. And then they might come back towards the end of the year and eventually hop into the hobby, with their first purchase. But yeah, that's something that always kind of struck me funny, though, is that their Ace Hardware is the pet store out that way.
Yeah.
And to be totally honest with you, that Ace Hardware supports us wholeheartedly. They're always sharing our stuff. They've got posters up there. Like, they're definitely doing it right. So I don't want anybody to kind of knock them because they are at Ace Hardware. The people that work there really do care. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing too. I mean, I thought when you were going to say, I don't know if you've noticed when you've been up there. I thought you were going to ask me if I've noticed all the Bigfoot sighting and the Bigfoot tours that there are up there. So for those of you who don't know, like Wausau, Rothschild area is like the Bigfoot capital of Wisconsin. Just want to throw that out there. So if you want to know why you should come to Rothschild show, go get a Bigfoot tour at night. Go to the show during the day. It's a great family event. You may or may not see a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But
in the wintertime, they got a big ski hill right there.
Yeah. I mean, Rothschild, I mean, that's one. I mean, Fond du Lac, obviously, we just saw it, and I put some of that, obviously, for folks who saw the hype reel. Those were all pictures and videos. Appreciate it, both Gary, DNA Reptilia, for letting me borrowing that from your pages. But just wanted to kind of show that. I mean, with that location, I mean, I think it was over 2,000. Was it 2,500 or something? 2,300? Something ridiculous through the door. I mean, it was
up there. It was it was a good show for sure. And that's the part that blows me away is that show. We've over doubled the average attendance at that show. And I mean, so as far as like where we started to where we are now, that show has been the biggest one as far as growth. And really the biggest thing out there that I could say is the vendors being willing to teach people, right? Like, really holding the thing about, there's no stupid question. All the vendors out that way, they're really willing to take the time and explain stuff to people and make people feel comfortable, because that really is the market out there. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's hardcore reptile enthusiasts everywhere. But out there, it's a lot of families that come through and they're interested and they want to get in the hobby. They just don't know where. At that point, it could go one of two ways. If a vendor just kind of ignores them and, just either you're going to buy or you're not, they might just say, this isn't for me, and go buy a cat or a dog. As opposed to the vendors doing what they are doing and, being willing to teach and kind of take them by the hand and show them the ropes. And they might not buy that time, but they might come back in 6 or 9 months and buy, once they're ready. So.
No, right. And I think, I think that's been, I think you hit on a good point. I mean, I'll tell, a personal story here. I've had it both at Rothschild and as well at Fond du Lac here now this last time. So last year, Rothschild December, and now here again, Fond du Lac. So for people who don't know, so like I'm one of those nerd people and spend way too much money on like testing stuff, health wise and whatnot. I tell everyone it's about $5 to 10 grand a year I spend. The fact that it was interesting that people were coming to Fond du Lac and were saying like, hey, I've got the snake that tested positive for nidovirus. Like, what do I do? So, I think it's been cool, from that perspective. I've had that both now, like I said, at Rothschild and at Fond du Lac, where, it's cool, that you're not selling that person anything, but you're providing that educational purpose so that then next time when that person, whether they are ready to add or they're looking to add something new or they're not sure because they're running into issues, they're now armed with the right information, to really kind of, keep their reptile collection safe. Because I mean, some of the stuff, it's not like just because I have ball pythons or just because I have leopard geckos. I mean, a lot of these things, they transverse, whether it's monitors, colubrids, pythons, boas. So, I think that's been, a really unique thing as well as the amount that I see other vendors, I would say at this show, reference another vendor. Oh, well, you should go talk to this person because this person's really good with that. And I think that's another thing that you've done, a really good job with. Like I said, is just, I don't know, like, I mean, hats off obviously to both you and all the vendors. I mean, with that, again, making sure that people, find the right resource, for those types of information, whether it's, husbandry, health related, specific genetic related questions, even breeding related questions. I think that's another really big thing when we're talking about kind of what I would say younger communities.
Yeah. I mean, so I can speak for the leopard geckos, but I feel like it's pretty much across the board. Like we were talking earlier, everybody is pretty much friends, right? And not everybody works with the same stuff. Like there might be 10 or 12 people there with ball pythons, but everybody has different genetics. So like I was saying with the leopard geckos, like, if somebody's looking for really nice bold stripes, I could say, oh yeah, go over to Xenogeckomorphs, Heidi, she'll hook you up. Or really nice radars and gem radars and stuff, white and yellow radars, go over to Gary, he'll hook you up, right? If people are looking for Albie Snow, of course they're gonna, point them my way and so forth. And I'm sure it's like that with the inverts, certain species, and with the ball pythons, certain morphs, so basically what goes around comes around. And if I'm going to point somebody your way and you're pointing somebody my way, like it's all going to even out at the end. And I think people, the vendors do a really good job of realizing that we are technically competition, but we're really not. We're all friends. We all want each other to sell stuff, right? So that really, I can't really say it's on us as much as it is just on everybody kind of realizing that we're all in this together. When you look at it in the grand scope of things, it's not just a leopard gecko hobby or a ball python hobby. It's a reptile hobby. So we all got to do our part, together to just give customers the best experiences possible.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I want to open it up here because I know I've seen so many vendors on here. I've seen some folks that I know are consistent, scaled up customers that are coming through the comments and stuff like that. If anyone here has a wonderful story that you want to tell here about Dylan or Brittany, you want to bring up here, you should throw it here in the chat, because I mean, there's so many of I feel like my stories and my instances that I could bring up, across with these two that are just been awesome. But I want people to see kind of those other viewpoints as well. Yeah, Wally just do something nice in here.
Todd and I have a love-hate relationship. And I'm not mean to him all the time. He's the one that's mean to me.
Is there a backstory on this?
Not too much of a backstory.
Love at first sight. It's just hate at first sight.
Exactly.
But I mean, obviously looking ahead, I guess, obviously we've got Green Bay coming up this weekend, which is going to be packed. I think that everyone's really excited about. I know those are the ones, on my calendar that I get really excited about. Then coming up after that, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's June 6th, June 7th. It's right around that, I think it's first June week 4th. In June. We got Rothschild, June 4th. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know right at the beginning we got the Rothschild show coming, which I mean, I think that one is another one that, like Todd was saying, that last one was crazy. I wasn't at that last one. I was taking my yearly January, February, no reptile shows time off. But I know that one, from the couple I did last year, that last one at December, I thought was crazy, but everything I saw from them, that one again in January, I mean, there's been steady growth. So I think the one thing I just want to highlight to people is everyone that's saying this, the reptile community is dead, all this, it's going downhill. I mean, it's still there. I think it's just, it's people are adjusting and people want that. I think what Scaled Up shows is people want that, human to human interaction. And, I just want to highlight with people too. I mean, it's not just pets, pet snakes, stuff like that. I think, can't remember if it was last week when Gary went on, when I was joking about one of my customers that was, making fun of me, and they're like, why didn't you bring your desert ghost stuff? So, I've had that, at locations like Rothschild and stuff, where there are people who are, serious collectors and they get upset if you don't bring everything. So, I think that's what's really unique, is that even when you talk about a regional show, you really do get what I kind of call all three stages of keeper. You get your beginning keepers, your experts, and then you kind of get your middle of the road, what I would call, kind of hobbyist keepers, hobbyist breeders, So I think that's kind of the unique thing, is you kind of get that full spectrum versus some of these really, really big shows. You might have that spectrum, but you don't maybe feel it or see it potentially as a vendor, because you're really hyper focused on one area, because those large shows is when you're going to be moving your high end stuff more so than your middle of the road type stuff. So I think that's really unique how you've been able to kind of drive across that spectrum as well.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is consistency, and not just on our end, but definitely on the vendors' end as well, right? Because I mean, every one of us started somewhere, and most of us didn't start off with a $5,000 snake or a $3,000 snake, right? So that one guy that you sold that normal yellow belly to, 2 years ago at that Scaled Up Expo, right? And he came back and he's been seeing you, and he might have gone and bought something a little nicer from somebody else, and might have gone and bought something a little nicer from somebody else. But every time he comes back to the show, he's going to stop by and say hi, right? And eventually, as he grows his collection, he's going to be interested in the higher end stuff, and he's going to remember that guy that sold him his first snake, or one of his first snakes, and he's really nice to him every time, and he's going to come back and he's going to spend money with you. So not only us like being consistent and letting people know that the show's there and that we're going to be coming back and we're here every so often, but consistency from the vendors of letting the customers know that every time that we're in town, that the vendor is going to be there to answer any questions that comes up, troubleshoot anything, or even just, talk and laugh and share pictures, right? So, I mean, consistency really, I think, is the key to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, then the other thing kind of looking at, we have lacrosse, which kicks off in July, kind of right after the 4th of July holidays, right in the, kind of the middle of summer there. What are the goals? When you look at, first expo, first look at, at a new location and stuff like that, what are your kind of goals that you set, kind of saying, for lacrosse to be a success, I want to see, these 3 things, what are you looking for, from your vendors, hopefully turnout with customers, those types of things.
I mean, I think the biggest thing for me, if you start throwing numbers out, right? Like I want to hit X amount of tables, X amount of walkthrough, like that don't really work, honestly. Like the biggest thing for me personally is just making sure everybody's happy, right?
Yeah.
So, if there was 500 people through the door, but everybody sold a crap ton, why does it matter if there's 500 people through the door, right? Or if there's 5,000 people through the door and nobody bought anything, right? Like vendors still ain't going to be happy. So that's kind of our biggest thing, is just doing our part to let people know that we're there, getting people through the door, getting a nice selection of vendors. It's, we're kind of in this little corner of eastern Wisconsin, northeastern Wisconsin. Yeah. So to go 4.5 hours west, I realize a lot of our vendors aren't going to be able to, travel that far. But still, we're going to do our part to reach new vendors and get the same selection and variety that we do and get people through the door. And really, it's our first time in lacrosse. It's a summer show, which everybody knows is sometimes a little bit slower. And then it's also our first show on a Saturday. So we're kind of seeing how that goes as well. But for anybody that's been paying attention over the years, it's not really something that's new for us. I don't mind trying certain things. Like we did a show on Easter once. We did a show the weekend after Thanksgiving. What else did we do? We did another one. Maybe it was Memorial Day weekend. Memorial. Yeah. So like not great choices, but like we got to work with what the venues have open for one.
Right.
But for two, like I don't really hold a lot of weight into that sort of thing. Like, will it affect you a little bit? Yeah. I mean, are people out of town for Thanksgiving? For sure. But there's still a lot of people that are in town and that aren't into reptiles or just looking for something to do. So I'm really, to say I'm not nervous about lacrosse, I'd be lying to you, but I'm not worried, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I can speak from experience from someone who used to drive down that highway all the time. Back and forth my trips between Illinois and North Dakota. Vendor wise, I mean, guys, if you're looking for something to do, lacrosse area has great beer. I mean, that's the only thing I can't say. I've only been stopped there for a short period of time, but it is, I think it's a really unique area because it's right there close to Minnesota too, as well. I mean, you're, I think, hour and a half from from Twin Cities, or might be less.
A little bit over that, I think. Yeah. But then you got Rochester, Minnesota, an hour to the west. Yeah. And then you got Iowa is not too far. It's Davenport, I think, is a little over 2. And then down into Madison area is 2 hours as well. So most walkthrough aren't going to travel over 2 hours, but you definitely will get walkthrough to travel. And then I'm really excited and anticipating some new vendors, hopefully some Iowa vendors that have heard about us from, we got some guys that come up from Iowa and vend. That way it'll give them a chance to only travel 2 hours and try our show rather than travel 4.5, 5 hours to try it. So I'm very hopeful for that as well.
Yeah. And look at that. It's the home of Quick Trip. So if you guys want some Quick Trip gasoline and whatever they sell in the convenience store, I mean, that's a win-win right there.
You want a funny story? So that's funny because lacrosse is the home of Quick Trip. And when we went out there to look at the venue, we're driving down. I'm like, oh, you see that? That's the first Quick Trip that was ever built. And I had her totally believing it. And I was going on for probably about 5 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
we're coming at that time period in the show. I mean, people. I mean, if you know someone who wants VIP tickets, I'd suggest that you tell them to get on now. They might be at a disadvantage because they need to have been listening earlier in the show, but maybe you can help them out. But we're gonna kick off our wonderful little giveaway promo here, and then we're gonna give away a question here and see who can win these 2 VIP tickets.
See who was paying attention.
Alrighty, folks, it's time to give away those tickets. And no, the question's not going to be where is the first quick trip ever built. So if you remember earlier in the show, we talked about that Scaled Up Expos used to be named something different. What was the original name of the Expos? First person to throw that in chat gets these wonderful VIP tickets that can then either be sent to you, picked up at a Scaled Up will call, or I can mail them to you, however you want. But first person to drop that in the chat. Come on, folks. You don't want to miss out on these tickets.
That's a good question.
Boom. Northern Wisconsin Reptile Expo. That's one of my normal. Mm-hmm. I know. See, this is what I'm talking about. This here. So he's one of my all-time, probably coolest, awesomest tarantula customers. Always stops by at every single show. Always asking about new show locations to try out, and always asking about new things that are going on in the hobby and stuff. So super awesome to be sending you these tickets. By all means, I mean, if need to hit me up to find a way to get them sent to you, just right there on the bottom there, that's the email for the podcast. Shoot me an email. Obviously you already have me on Messenger as well, so you can just message me there too. But I'll get these tickets over to you, or I can have them sitting at a will call for a Scaled Up show that you plan to go to. Just hit me up and let me know. But congratulations, we've got another set of tickets given away, folks. And I mean, guys, these were the easy ones, so let people know. I mean, I got 20 of these tickets to give away, and it's going to progressively get harder as the year goes on. And it's going to get more and more cutthroat like the NFL season does. So just remember that, folks. I mean, these 3 were the easy ones. So, by all means, they're going to get a little bit harder. So congratulations to our winner. Definitely, obviously, we will be having a short break in between our kind of Scaled Up vendor series before we kick it off with another 3 vendors that I'm about to be posting up those episodes coming up here, going through to the end of May. So we do have 3 more vendors that are going to be showcased. So we are going to have Wally from Supreme Gecko coming up here in a couple of weeks. After him, we're going to have Dave from DNA Reptilia. And then right after him, finishing out this first set of the Scaled Up vendor series, we're going to have Next Level Displays. So doing something different. So we've been going across everything from snakes to geckos to ball pythons to, different types of displays and enclosures. This is just showing you a little bit as far as the types of vendors that are coming, the quality of the vendors, how cool these people are. I mean, I'm probably the lamest vendor that's here. This is why I'm putting these other people on. And I mean, you can just kind of see, the energy, obviously, that kind of comes with going to a Scaled Up Expo. So, from my perspective, I'm really excited. Definitely keep watching as we continue to kind of keep driving these different Scaled Up Expo specials, because like I said, I mean, we got a lot more tickets. This only counts to 6 tickets here now that we've given away. So we still got a lot more coming. We got 14 more to give away, folks. So if you haven't won yet, stay tuned with that. But I mean, I kind of want to closing out kind of this episode going in, to the bottom of the hour. Obviously, I want to make sure that you guys get some sleep with Green Bay coming up this weekend. But I know there's probably been a lot of memories, going across, building Scaled Up and everything, from the ground up. But I mean, is there one either moment or memory or something, and you each might have a different one that, really was like, that kind of, I guess, special memory that you're always going to think of when you kind of look back at Scaled Up and say, I remember, X.
Yeah, I'll go first.
Yeah.
So mine, honestly, it's not just one memory, but it's after the shows, every show. the conversations that we have and the vendors that stop by, and whether somebody pops in for just a couple minutes to say bye and, whatever they have to say, or, so, a lot of times us and Gary are the last ones there. We'll sit there for hours, sometimes just talking. But realistically, like, that's where a lot of the friendships that we've made come from, and being able to, share our feedback or get ideas or just vent or, crack jokes or, whatever may happen after a show. But that would for sure be my favorite memories.
Yeah.
And then mine isn't one specific memory either, but for anyone that doesn't know, I'm normally up front taking admission and everything, and then Dylan is normally vending for Dab Exotics. The amount of parents that'll bring their children, but the parents are absolutely terrified of reptiles, is unbelievable. But then, like, just watching them transition to, hey, it's not that bad. I can hold that snake, even though, like, they came in scared to even walk in the door. It's just been cool to see parents doing it for the kids, and the parents really being comfortable with it by the end of the day.
Yeah. I think that, I think Todd had mentioned something like that on the show too, as well. Regarding that, there's always, and I know on some of my other episodes, people have kind of referenced the same thing. There's always like that one little kid where the parents are, and I feel like I see that even more so. I think that's really funny. Like on like the tarantula side is like how many of the parents that are just deathly afraid. And I know I'm pretty sure this was a Scaled Up show, because I don't think it was my Indianapolis show. But so I had this tarantula. It's like sitting on the table that, for people who don't know what it is, it's a baboon tarantula. It's an old world. It's nasty. And it's funny that, you see this like 5-year-old kid that's just like absolutely fascinated. He's picking up the box, he's all wide eyed and he's looking at it. And the parents, they won't even step within, 5 foot of the table. So, I think that's, there's a uniqueness to it. I think it's almost like when we're that young, we don't know what we don't know, but at the same time, we're just, completely fearless. And, it's a really, I think, unique, thing to see, because, you guys have had, the herpetological societies out, different educational, societies and stuff out as well, supporting the show, which, I think is huge. There's so many shows that just, I feel like, focus on the sales vendor aspect. I breed this, therefore I sell this type of a thing, or I sell these supplies. But there's a huge educational component to your shows that I think is, a massive gap right now in our industry. I know me and Gary could probably go on for hours as we like pound this into people's brains, but I think that's huge. That's the future of our hobby, sitting right there. And I really think that, at least from my perspective, that I feel like is your biggest kind of gift that you've done to, Wisconsin, is bring that, to the forefront, to the education. Look at the reporter on the Channel 6 News, with Turbo.
Yeah.
That was insane. I look at those types of things, and we're talking about people who are, 30, 35, 40 years old, who have never experienced that, and to people like me and you, we're like, it's normal. We do it every day. We go to a buddy's house and we go grab someone's iguana or something. But, here it's, it's really unique. I don't know how else to put it. I don't want to, they say that Lambeau Field's one of the 7 wonders of the new world now, but I think you guys are knocking on the door here, as far as pushing Lambeau off the map.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know. I'm a Packers fan. You're a Bears fan. So that might change your opinion a little bit.
So for everyone who doesn't know, like Dylan said, I'm a Bears fan. He's a Packers fan. Like we like making these jokes, 24/7. So like, if you saw like the reason why I said the biggest thing to happen since the Aaron Rodgers trade, there was a reason for that.
Yeah. I saw Chris commented something earlier about the Bears season being pretty, it was the ticket giveaway if it's going to get harder like a football season. And he said if it was the Bears season, it'd be pretty easy. But I can't say too much now that we don't have Aaron Rodgers. So I'm not going to say anything until at least halfway through the season to gauge where we're at.
I'm waiting.
So you're safe for a couple months.
I'm waiting for one of our Minnesota vendors here to talk about the Vikings or something. Or
they have no room to talk.
Someone to be a lot. Where's Dan Campbell? Those Lions fans.
Yeah. At least the Bears have championships, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's our pitch? Because we've joked about this after the draft that we were going to try to get one of the Packers draft picks to show up at a scaled up show. If they're watching,
work your magic.
I am going to try to work my magic. I don't know if Hunter Hillenmeyer, ex-Packer, ex-Bears linebacker that I happen to be friends with, if he'll respond, but if you do
for us.
Yeah. So Hunter, if you are listening right now, give me a shout out. It's been a while. But, other than that, I mean, kind of looking ahead to this weekend, to kind of wrap up, is there anything, excited about? Is there anything, specific that you're really pumped about? Is there a surprise that we're all waiting for? Like, is there a mascot or something that's coming?
So for me, I'm just pumped to be back in Green Bay.
Yeah.
I mean, with it being our first show, and obviously we only do Green Bay 3 times a year as opposed to 4 times for the other ones. Just for me, it's nice to be back in Green Bay. We haven't been there for a show since November, so it's just Green Bay is always going to hold a special spot to me at least.
Yeah, definitely excited to have a full house. All the new vendors that are coming, excited to meet everyone, and just.
I also enjoy all the vendors who are also Packers fans but don't live in Packer country. They'll come up for the weekend, and like we've had people go tour Lambeau, and they always ask us, what is there to do in Green Bay and stuff like that. And I always got to say, well, not a lot because it's not a big city, so
I heard Jim McMahon could stop by wearing a Scaled Up Expo headband.
Pull them strings, Wally, and get them there.
I know. I mean, I guess are there any good stories? I mean, feel free to throw them out there. Are there any good stories? Maybe, Jim, you live in Michigan. You're not a Lions fan? What is this?
No. Absolutely not. Actually, one good story. After Fond du Lac, it's kind of heartbreaking, at least for us. But after Fond du Lac, it was the Green Bay. It was their final regular season game. I'm pretty sure it was this past season. And Jim and Anna, they have like a 5.5 hour drive back home. And we're all Packers fans. So we said, screw it. We decided to get a hotel Sunday night, and we went out to a bar to watch the game. So that was fun. I mean, for him, not so fun being a Packers fan, but it was fun to, kind of go out after a show and extend the weekend another night. And it would have been better if the Packers wouldn't have lost that game and we had to watch, Rodgers and Cobb walk off the field all sappy like. But it's still pretty cool to be able to make friends like that and go after a show just kind of on a whim, right? Just because the Packers are playing.
Yeah, we need to convince Jim and Anna to start selling those cool orange shoes from the last expo.
Yes, I love those.
Yeah, the next level shoes or the next level Nikes.
Yeah. Oh, get a brand deal at Nike.
Get a brand deal. Next level Nikes. He's probably gonna bust me and be like they're Adidas or something or they're Reeboks. But I mean, other than that, I mean, folks, I mean, if you guys got another, cool story, something you want to, throw a joke in there, throw a joke out there. I mean, again, like I said, I don't want to keep them late on an expo week because, I mean, that's a lot of work. I mean, I don't know what time they actually get there in the morning, but I really don't want to find out.
Green Bay is a rough one. I mean, not rough, but it's a lot longer of a weekend, I would say, just for the simple fact that our other venues are in smaller cities, so they're tend to be less busy, I would say. So sometimes we can go in the night before and set up. But Green Bay, they always cut it right down to the wire. So Sunday morning we might be half dead by the time you guys even get there.
Gary wants to go 24 hours. I mean, he's told me these stories where you guys are like there still like it's like 10 p.m. host or something.
Serious.
Yeah, that's common.
The last Fond du Lac, we seriously didn't pull out of the venue until like 9:30.
No, I know. I mean, like I was there late.
You were there for a while.
Yeah, right. And I was getting reamed by my wife. But she was literally on the phone. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, the first part was like the typical after the show when I talk for a little bit before I go. But then when me and Gary started getting into things about like Reptile and all other sorts of things like venomous reptiles I was like, oh, she was not happy with that one. That's why I made a shock collar. Yeah, shock collars. There we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that, like I said, that's the thing. I feel like every single show, there's always like this, like, there's like I don't know, it's almost like its own little, I don't know what you want to call it, like amphitheater going on or something of vendors.
Yeah, sometimes there'll be 10 people sitting around, kind of BSing and sharing stories and talking about the day, and sometimes like there's that one, like Jim and I, like we'll talk, and Jim always says there's that one customer, that one interaction, and sometimes after the shows when we're talking like that, multiple vendors had that same interaction with the same kid, so that's kind of neat, and sharing stories and like, oh, he was so excited about my tarantula, and then there was this kid, and you start describing them and stuff like that. It's always a blast. I mean, the whole day is a blast, but it's nice to kind of unwind and be able to just relax a little bit and be more casual about it after the shows.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I'm gonna like slip a kid a 20 or something at Green Bay and be like, all right, go over to Jim's booth over there and ask him if you can climb inside the big boa cage.
yeah. Let me know. I'll get it on camera. They're not gonna be in.
What's gonna happen at the end of the show is Jim's gonna be like, "You'll never believe it. This kid gave me $20 to go in the cage."
Yeah, that's funny.
It's gonna backfire. My kid will do it for 40. Nick Kennedy, your kids drive a hard bargain. They're already getting free stickers. Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, kids are what make the shows. I mean, and I think again, that's one of the unique things I think about Scaled Up. I would say it's one of the. I don't want to say that other shows are not family friendly, but I have been to some shows that I would be very nervous. Like I don't have kids yet, but I would highlight that I have been to some shows that I would be very nervous bringing my child to. But I don't feel that with Scaled Up. I think obviously both obviously just how the venues are done, the vendors react to kids and stuff like that is a lot better I think than some other shows where either certain words that are being said or certain outfits that are being worn.
Yeah, that stuff happens. Yeah,
right. Favorite part of the shows is education. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that's been in the hobby long enough, I mean, we can all attest. Like, and it just only makes sense. The future is the younger generation. Those are the ones that for me, and you're a little bit older than me. Like, it was Jack Hanna and Steve Irwin and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember Jack Hanna.
yeah. But for the next generation, like I'm sure they're watching all the current people online too. But then, like the opportunity to come in and be hands-on and see it inches away from it, from them. Right. There's really nothing better than that. And as far as like the future of the industry, I would say that as well. Like watching something online is one thing, but when you can put it in your hand, you get that personal connection with it. So that really is a special part about what we do.
Ooh, Wally, you gave me a good idea. Maybe we should do a vendors only fantasy football league.
That would be fun. That would be fun.
You know what? Vendors only fantasy football league. We put X amount of dollars into the pot, and then basically whoever wins basically has enough money for 2 tables.
Yeah.
Oh. So, folks, if you want to add that onto the list of things we're going to do with the tread here, let me know. I'm wearing a Borat swimsuit this week.
No!
Is Steve making you wear it? Todd?
Oh man!
But I mean, otherwise, outside of that, I'll just kind of wrap it up here. I mean, from my side, I've been excited about wanting to do this one just because I think it's one thing, obviously, to go to the expo, to see the expo. It's another thing, not just obviously to interact with all the different vendors and stuff. And I know obviously you vend your own expos, but it's another thing to kind of hear, I think, all the work, and obviously everything that you put into the community, into the expos, and, how much you kind of care about the community and everything that you've done around it. So, from my perspective, like I said, I've really been looking forward to this one just so that I can kind of showcase instead of just keep saying, oh yeah, well, Dylan and Brittany and this show and listing, like the 8 scaled up shows or whatever it is that I'm doing this year. But, to showcase that, there's a reason both from a vendor and a customer perspective to to be a part of these shows. But I mean, I'll leave it and hand it over to you. I mean, last words, last comments going into Green Bay this weekend and into the rest of the Scaled Up season.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, thank you for your support and, really pushing hard and getting our name out there as well. And, of course, all the other vendors who are liking and sharing and commenting and posting in our Facebook group and stuff like that. It means a lot. The support that we've gotten from everybody isn't something that we really expected.
Yeah, no, we're super grateful for everything.
And honestly, sometimes I feel like, you guys may go a little overboard with the thank yous and donuts. I mean, obviously I could say like we're doing a good job, but a lot of it really is you guys, the vendors, who obviously we couldn't do it without you. So just basically thank you to everybody who's supporting us, and we're looking forward to a great show in Green Bay and continuing to grow and expand and reach more people.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, obviously, folks, so next week, for everyone that's always wondered, when I reference Justin, I don't mean Justin Kobika. I mean Justin Datz. So him and his wife, who are two of my, longest friends since kind of re-entering the reptile hobby here, roughly around 5 years ago. I took kind of a short hiatus in between. They will be on. We'll be talking kind of about their pet shop, all their different breeding projects, everything from rats to fish to snakes to beardies to geckos. I think they breed over like 15 different things. It's absolutely ridiculous. But after that, we'll be right back to our Scaled Up Expo series, kicking it right back off then with Wally from Supreme Gecko, driving straight then into DNA Reptilia the following week, and then finishing up this first segment of series in basically our season 1 with Next Level Displays. And then we will have 2 surprise guests to finish off season number 1, which I'm not releasing yet.
I'm excited. I might get it out of you yet.
You may already know, but don't spill it. Don't spill
it. Truthfully, don't. Maybe I need to just put some thought into it. Maybe I just need to put some thought into it.
Yeah, reach out to Aaron Rodgers. He'll spill it. He'll spill it on the Pat. No, he's gonna spill it on the Pat McAfee show.
Yeah.
But other than that, folks, I mean, if you're planning or you don't have plans this weekend and you want something to do, come on out to Green Bay. Come see one of the coolest expos in, northern Wisconsin. You can blame me for calling it northern Wisconsin. It's not northern enough for you. Appreciate, everyone again, tuning into the Tread, supporting the Scaled Up Expos. Really looking forward to seeing everybody. And I'll see you all next week. Thank you all. Thank you.